Welcome to Keepin It A Hundo. I'm your host, Matty Hundo. Today's guest is Nesby Phips. We were on the road again. We were down in New Orleans. Nesby is from New Orleans. He was born Courtney Nero, but performs under the name Nesby Phips. He's a rapper, artist, producer, writer, poet. But before all that, he was a barber. And he grew up in Hollygrove and the 3rd Ward. And if you know anything about Hollygrove, that's where Lil Wayne's from. He grew up with Lil Wayne and Mack Maine and Curren. Went to school with those guys, worked with those guys, made music with them. So he has quite a resume on him. I was lucky enough to link up with Phips through my boy B. Brandon Opalaby. They grew up together, him and Nesby's younger brother, Brittany, who I've met. At some point while preparing for the podcast, I realized I had met his brother at the Outkast show about 6 years ago in Atlanta. He went to the show with myself and B. and AKG, and I didn't even realize I was about to do a podcast with his brother. I had heard some of Nesby's work, and I thought it might be good for Keepin It A Hundo theme music. So that's how I got in touch with him, and we spoke. I got the rights to his music, and that's what you'll be hearing on here. That's what you heard on here last episode, and that's what you're listening to now. This is some original music from his album titled Phipstrumentals. It's all instrumentals. He uses a lot of jazz and a lot of instruments. Definitely a lot of influence from New Orleans, the jazz capital of the world. And his musical roots go way back. His great aunt is Mahalia Jackson. She was known as the greatest gospel singer ever. Nesby's gone on to work with local artists like Juvenile and the aforementioned Lil Wayne, Curren, Mack Maine, and even some artists outside of New Orleans like Wiz Khalifa on the Cushion Orange Juice mixtape. And he's got a song with H.E.R called Feel Good. So I was out in New Orleans for a wedding. My friend Brady Thomas from Oakland was getting married. They had a destination wedding in New Orleans. They had over 200 people there for a destination wedding. It was quite a wedding. The whole weekend was planned out. The first thing I did when I touched down in New Orleans, besides leave my suit on the plane, was link up with Nesby and go to lunch. So myself, Nesby Phips, and my boy AKG headed over to the 3rd Ward to a place called Heard Dat Kitchen. Shout out to Tia. And we had a great lunch. So before we get into the podcast, a few more highlights from the weekend included when we reserved the gym at Tulane, the wedding party. We had a nice crew, maybe 15, 20 guys. We got to play ball over at Tulane. Not sure that was ideal to do before a wedding, just in case the groom gets his ankles broken. The wedding itself was certainly a highlight. And the day after the wedding, I went on a little excursion to a place called Exhibit B. It's over in Algiers on the other side of the Mississippi River. We had heard about it, that it was some type of art exhibit. So I figured it was inside of a building, some artwork. You walk through, you take a look, you behave yourself, you're quiet. You know, the typical art gallery experience. So we get over there and we pull up on a housing project. It's maybe 5 condemned buildings with art and murals and graffiti, not to mention furniture, toilets, mattresses, kids' toys. I'm talking 5 stories of this, and some of the work was beautiful. It was a project formerly known as De Gaulle Manor, and they had quite a checkered past. I read about it online. A lot of murders, a lot of drug activity. They got ruined during Katrina, and they tried to build them back up, but so an artist named Brandon Odoms decided to turn it into his own canvas, and he made it Exhibit B. So we enjoyed walking around there and taking some pictures. It wasn't what we expected, and that was probably the best part of the experience out there. We definitely ate good out there. Highly recommend a few places. There's Cochon Butcher, which is right next to Cochon Restaurant. Cochon Restaurant is one of the best restaurants in New Orleans. That place was great. Heard Dat Kitchen was great. That's in the 3rd Ward. That's where Nesby took us. Koshan Butcher next to Koshan is a great lunch spot. Some of the best sandwiches you'll find. Also enjoyed Turkey and the Wolf, which is another pretty much sandwich spot. You're not talking about healthy stuff. A lot of meats, a lot of pork, and they love shrimp down there. Definitely enjoyed a restaurant called Herb Saint. That's owned by the same restaurant group as Koshan. But I can't stress it enough. Get off Bourbon Street when you're out there. We're too old for that stuff. One more thing before we get into the Phips pod. The last night out there, we were lucky enough to see Zion. The Lakers were in town, so a group of us from the wedding party headed out to the Smoothie King Center, and we caught the Lakers Pelicans. They put on a show. Zion had 35. LeBron had a triple-double, and it was a great game. Let's get back to the Phips pod. When he's not rapping, when he's not making music, when he's not cutting hair, when he's not arguing about food, when he's not painting, he's domesticated rap dad. If you check out Nesby Phips on Instagram, you'll see it's all about being a dad and trying to balance being a rapper and a dad, because they're definitely anatomically opposed. Coming at you from the Creole cockpit, this is my conversation with Nesby Phips.
Shortcut saved your life with fucking with audio, period.
Yeah, so hanging with you, I can already tell it reminds me of hanging with my boy Courtney. Yeah. It's the same, like...
Courtney's real big into audio.
He's the director. Yeah. I've had him on the podcast. Everything I do, he's like taking a picture with my iPhone, using a computer. You know there's a quicker way to do this.
And try to, even though you have your system, try to incorporate your shortcuts. It'll optimize everything that you're doing.
Okay.
You know, and optimizing. You just fucking can't go wrong.
Right now, Hundo.
We're recording right now. That's okay. We're not talking about shit yet. I'm just letting you know.
That's TFU.
Right. So I'm on the plane headed here, and I'm listening to some Nesby Phips, which I've been trying to listen to it the last few weeks and catch up on your stuff.
Much appreciated.
And I hear this track from
the Phips tapes?
No.
Black Man for Sale?
Black Man for Sale.
Yeah. That's a conceptual project. Featuring
Henry Mack.
Yeah, my brother.
So I'm sitting here like, wait a minute, I've hung out with his brother before, and I didn't realize that. Mm-hmm. So but then I did the math, and B-Dot told us that that's that's Nesby Phips' brother, and all that. So we're here with Nesby Phips. We're in New Orleans. Mardi Gras just ended. Phips is still alive.
I don't put myself in position to not be.
So we just finished up a nice meal.
Definitely. Heard That Kitchen. Shout out to Tia.
Yeah, shout out to Tia. She put me on at the Superdome.
Yeah, straight up.
We went over to the Third Ward. Explain why you took us there.
Because you recommended Koshan Butcher, which is a nice restaurant. And the guy who runs it, I don't think it's the best restaurant. I forget the chef's name. But when people come to New Orleans, this place is more of a Caribbean island than it is an American city. So I always like to bring you to, what makes this city. And Koshan, places like Koshan don't make the city. They just make the top of the Google list when you search for restaurants. People in the kitchen, chefs like Skeesh and the servers like Tia, and I want to bring you in an authentic neighborhood so you can really say that you touched this place. Because if we went to Koshan, we wouldn't have left the central business district. And that's not what makes New Orleans, New Orleans.
And I appreciate that, because I was trying to see more of New Orleans, because the last couple times I came out here, I got off of the CBD, the not the medical stuff, but the Central Business District.
Yep.
And I appreciated. I liked what I saw of New Orleans.
That's where we at.
A lot of people come down to Bourbon Street and they're like, I'm too old for Bourbon Street, or Bourbon Street's dirty, or
Bourbon's for suckers, man.
Right. And we realize that. We realize this isn't where the real place is, but if you don't see what's out there, so now I know what's out there a little bit, and I want to see more of it, and I'm glad you took us there.
100.
We got my boy AKG here. He went out to eat with us, so we had a few of us. You were talking about a lot of good shit and shit I wanted to use on the podcast.
All right.
So let's try to rehash some of that stuff.
All right.
But let's start with food. That was one of the main things I want to talk about with you.
I love talking about food.
So do I. So besides we got Heard Dat Kitchen, what else? What would you recommend to people coming to town? I know there's the tourist spots, then there's the classic New Orleans spots that are good for everybody, including tourists.
So everything that they make in a restaurant that's worth getting, normally we get that at home. So the optimal answer is find you somebody who mama cooking tonight, right? That's
Gumbo, jambalaya.
You don't buy gumbo. You go get gumbo from somebody who made it at home. I
You
don't
should
buy
put a foot in
gumbo.
it.
I don't go to restaurants and buy gumbo.
Yeah.
That's like blasphemy. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I got you.
Yeah, it's 'cause it's cultural. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to know who made it, because the pot made by somebody with love in the kitchen is different made in a commercial kitchen. The roux is different. I guarantee you, it probably came out of pack. You know what I'm saying? And everybody got a different way of how they get their gumbo going. Some people use a shrimp stock. Some people use an oyster stock. You know, I know people that travel and they brought their own water when they had Thanksgiving out of town, because they wanted the water to be from here. The shrimp got to be from here, the whole nine, you know what I'm saying? So I always start at somebody's house. But if you're going to, you know, go somewhere local, you want to find something that predates Katrina, preferably somewhere in the 90s or earlier. It's a, you know, you're most likely to have a more authentic New Orleans meal experience, the whole nine. You know, so we're talking about places like, well, Neo's is fairly new, but you know they do a good job of holding down the Creole cuisine. Then you got places like Mandina's on Canal. You got Pascal Manales on Napoleon. You got Duckett Chase in the Treme area. Yeah, Duckett Leah Chase, she just passed away not too long ago.
Willie Mae's Scotch House.
Willie Mae's Scotch House is good. I actually don't go and get the fried chicken. I like the veal.
Okay.
And I'm not a veal guy, but
I didn't know they have veal.
Yeah.
I think it's off the menu.
Nah, I bet you on there.
Yeah?
And that mug be smothered with a fire gravy, and they give you these macaroni and cheese with the peas. Excellent meal. The fried chicken is like extra greasy. I'm not crazy about it.
Yeah, I had that.
Lil Dizzy's fire. Lil Dizzy's is actually owned by, I believe, Wayne Baquet, and his brother Dean Baquet is the editor-in-chief for the New York Times, I believe.
Wow.
He the one that interviewed Jay-Z for that interview.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a New Orleans native too. Yeah, man. So, you know, it's tons of places. Ironically, most of them are gonna be black owned for sure. Like Dunbar's, they used to be on Ferret, now they on Elhart. They have been there since like the 80s and the 90s.
Speaking of black owned, I was reading this article in the New York Times the other day about how all the bars are being bought up, like the black bars.
Yep.
What is that on St. Charles?
Not St. Charles. Not too many black people own anything on St. Charles.
Well, there was like a main street that all there's like it was all black bars, and now it's like half and half, and it's getting completely gentrified.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was Claiborne, because Claiborne Avenue is usually all black, especially on the downtown side of things. What you got? Orleans, Broad Street. I mean, that's happening everywhere though. You know?
But you talking about making the gumbo at home and all that stuff. That's a perfect segue into this quote I wanted to give you, and you tell me who said it.
All right.
You listening? All right, AKG. Tell me before you answer it, Nesby. Tell me if you can answer this question. Who quoted it? It was a famous rapper said this. Pasta is underwhelming. Fight me. You got it? I'm going to give you one hint. We had lunch with him today.
Yeah, man.
All right.
It is.
So, let's segue into that.
Let's unpack that.
Yes.
Let's unpack that.
We are going to unpack that. So it's the same idea
Uh-huh.
with pasta and Italian food. It's like I feel like if you come from a certain part of the country that doesn't have Italian people or Italian neighborhoods or authentic food,
We do have that.
I know you guys had a branch in the mob down here, so I know you have some
The
Italians.
Marcellos, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But if you think pasta's weak, then you're not going to the right place, or you got to go home. Cause like
Everybody say that.
where I grew up, I thought Mexican food was a joke
Okay.
because we don't have Mexicans in Boston.
All right.
And I was eating like this trash Mexican food, and then I moved and I traveled and I went to Mexico,
Yeah.
and then I realized they have some of the best food in the world.
Yeah.
And then same thing with like gumbo. Like I think the first time I ever had gumbo, my dad made it. My dad's Italian,
Correct.
so he doesn't know really how to make gumbo. It tasted good, but it didn't taste like the same gumbo that you get when you come to New Orleans.
Yes.
So I think that's the problem. I think if you go out to eat, especially
I'm
around
open
here,
to that. I'm open to that because I actually I'm practical almost to a fault, but I haven't found that fault yet. If I'm eating an Italian restaurant, I want it to be from an Italian family. I don't eat white-owned Mexican restaurant food. You know what I mean?
But you know what else you can't do? You can't, those like, people go to Olive Garden and think they've had Italian food. And it's I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but that's the type of things I hear when I hear things like pasta is underwhelming.
Yeah, so
that's for
I agree.
Olive Garden diners.
But I've been to, say like I just went to a restaurant, I think it's called Impastados or something like that not too long ago, and I've had pasta there. It's an Italian restaurant. But let me tell you why pasta is underwhelming to me. I'm not a big bread eater, right? Essentially, pasta is like a bread product, right? I don't want to reduce it to this, but to me, a lot of stuff that it's topped with, that's good. But the pasta never does anything for me. It's almost like saying, "Ooh, I love the rice and those red beans."
I feel like you never had homemade pasta.
Put me on.
Like people actually make the pasta.
So this is how.
I mean, I don't do that every time I make it, but
right. This is how I'm all for being proved wrong. I'm not above it, and this isn't absolute. But in my 39 years, pasta has been underwhelming.
What about pizza? Same thing.
Well, pizza gets a little more exciting. I don't eat it that much, if at all, these days. Excuse me, because I wore it out as a kid, for one. I thought I was a Ninja Turtle. And but so I don't eat it that much anymore. And I'm not a big dairy guy. And I don't like bread that much no more. So that take me out the pizza game. But pizzas can be hella good. I'm aware of that. But just pasta, like if you telling me you made me some type of pasta, or that's what you got to eat, don't expect me to be like, oh wow. You know what I'm saying? But I'm open to my mind being changed. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm glad I said it, because a lot of people have been bringing it to me like, you ain't had to point me to the right pasta. Because other than that, up until that point, nobody was telling me where I need to go get pasta at. Now they telling me. You know what I'm saying? So,
the best places to go is to go to Granny's house on Sunday.
All right, same here.
Sunday sauce.
All right, say no more. You know, so when your grandma cooking, call me. You hear me?
I wish she could. She's resting in peace.
Mine is too. So she's not making the gumbo or the crawfish bitch no more.
Yeah.
But
I compare everybody to her.
Yeah.
And if I go to a restaurant and I say that reminds me of my grandmother's, that's
pretty
the best.
good. That's the best compliment you could give, right?
Yeah.
Straight up. I feel it. But yeah, everybody out there listening, prove me wrong. Point me to the good pasta, because up until this point, it's still underwhelming.
Are you aware that your last name is Italian?
Correct. Let me give you a tidbit.
And I'm not talking about Phips. His real last name is Nero.
Yeah, well, y'all pronounce it Nero. We call it Nero down here. So my real name is Courtney Anthony Nero. My name was supposed to be Corleone Antonio Nero. I was born in 1980, around the time when the second Godfather dropped, roughly. Mm-hmm. Being my name was Nero, my dad was infatuated with that. Of course, I'm fucking black, so I'm not Italian.
But Nero means black in Italian.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It's the same. Nero is the same as negro in Spanish.
I did not know that, bro.
Yeah, your name is Courtney Black.
Wow. Okay. All right.
So keep going.
Call it but my mom was like, I am not naming my child after no motherfucking mobster. I could curse on here, right?
Nah, no fucking cursing.
All right, cool. So my mom was like, I'm not naming my child after no mobster. So the compromise, instead of me being Corleone Antonio Nero, my name is Courtney Anthony Nero. So I'm fully aware. I'm aware of Emperor Nero and how he played the fiddle while Rome burned. And all that stuff. There's Cafe Neros all over Europe.
Yep.
I've seen them in England.
Exactly.
That's big. Actually, so my family, once upon a time, we owned a bar in Pigeon Town, was the neighborhood that sits behind Hollygrove in the 17th Ward. We owned a bar called Nero's Bar. It's now a church. And my first cousin, she owns it. If ever I get a chance to get that building back, I would love to have a wine bar called Nero Vino. Back in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm aware of my Italian namesake.
No blood though?
I wouldn't see it. I don't see it nowhere in my family.
It's possible. Who's the Jackson family? Mahalia Jackson is your great aunt?
That's on my dad's mother's side. Mm-hmm. So Nero is my dad's father's side.
And his mom was a Jackson.
No. His mother is the daughter of a Jackson. So she is Yvonne Jackson. Yvonne Jackson is my great grandmother. That's my grandmother's. My dad's mom is Mahalia Jackson's sister. And her mother was an outside child, so her dad was a Jackson, Johnny Jackson, and he was a longshoreman, a barber, and a jack-legged preacher.
So you come from a family of music besides her?
A family of musicians and barbers and skilled workers, on all sides, and educators. My grandmother was an educator on my mother's side. But, yeah, barbering seems to be something that pops up every generation, if not every other generation in my family. Ironically, I'm a barber by trade. I've been cutting hair since I was 13. But my grandmother's mother is Mahalia Jackson's older sister. But she was born in 1911. She was born in what used to be referred to as Nigger Town. Now they call it the Black Pearl, but natives still refer to it as Nigger Town.
What part of town is that?
It's in the 17th ward on the other side of Carrollton from Pigeon Town, and right behind Gert Town. And it's like in the back corner of the city, right on the river, not too far from Audubon Park, which is it's a wealthy area now. But at the time, it was called Nigger Town for obvious reasons. And yeah, she grew up like right there on the river, eating the pepper grass that grew on the levee.
What's pepper grass?
Pepper grass is just an edible grass that has some good ass flavor to it that you could scoop up. It was like just a different green that mostly poor people would eat. It was edible.
There's so many similarities. Italian people are eating dandelions. And dandelion greens, they call them gigattis.
Okay.
I mean, they're bitter as hell, but I liked them. Yeah, my grandma used to pull them out the backyard, make a salad with them.
Make a salad out of them, exactly. Yeah, I mean, everybody lived off the land. Everything essentially comes from the earth. So, whether something is, upscale or quote unquote is raggedy or poor, it's all, that's classism right there. Everything you eat comes from the earth, because people think shrimp is a delicacy when it's really a water roach. So it's all about perspective. You know what I'm saying?
AKG wasn't allowed to eat it growing up.
No.
Seventh Day Adventist, right. No bottom feeders.
All right. Yeah, I mean, technically, that's in Leviticus for all us,
Only thing with scales from the sea.
Exactly. Yep. So yeah, that's what they ate. They used to make pillows out of moss, Spanish moss that grew on the trees and stuff. You'll wash it, dry it out, and you'll pack it into a stitched up pillowcase. And that was
the stuffing of the.
That was the stuffing for the pillow back in her day. The whole nine. I was the director of her estate for a few years. I was a proxy for my grandmother, so I had dug really deep into her story because there's not a lot out there about her.
Yeah, you're from the South and your family's American. Mm-hmm. I mean, how far back does your family go in New Orleans?
I know the Nero family. I found marriage certificates recently as far back as 1897 in the same neighborhood. So technically, my family's been in the 17th ward for over 120 years. Mahalia was born in 1911 in that same neighborhood, and her family was living there prior to that. So that's over 100 years right there.
The year before the Titanic crashed.
Boom. Wow.
1911.
I didn't even peep that. So we've been around for at least 100-something years. I heard some Negroes came down from New Roads, Louisiana. But I don't know what year that was.
You don't know like where your name came from?
Not
like the
at
name
all.
Nero? It literally could have been some people just said they're black.
Yeah,
and the people who said
it could be that. I've also found a different spelling of Nero. There's a city called Nero that's just down the river, past like Chalmette and Jesuit Bend. Nobody could really tell me the origin of our name. One story I did hear is that we picked the name post-slavery, because our names.
But you guys picked it though.
According to what I heard, there's no official record or anything.
Yeah, it's tough to find that stuff.
It's tough to find. I've always been lightweight envious of anybody who understood their family lineage. Given that we had that gap due to the history of Africans in this country and stuff.
Yeah.
But we make every situation unique, so I don't let it get me down. But as far back as I know, 100-something years, we've been Neros.
I'm going to give the etymology of how we are sitting here today.
All right.
So I was looking for somebody, or I was looking for some music for my podcast because I love picking theme music for everybody, something that fits them or something they like or something that made sense for my guest.
Yeah.
But then I realized I kind of want to monetize this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And going on most platforms that I release it on, they're not too fond of you using other people's music without their permission.
Correct.
And you really shouldn't do that anyway, but I was doing it and I reached out to a couple people. Actually, I think I said it on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And my boy B-Dot, your friend, Brandon Opalaby, reached out to me and he said he got a friend. And I said, oh, yeah, that's right. He said Nesby Phips. And I said, yeah, I remember that guy. And he said he's got some really good instrumentals.
Mm-hmm.
So I checked out the instrumentals, the Phipstrumentals, I should say.
Yes, sir.
And I found some bangers, some heat in there.
I appreciate it.
And I hit him up, and ever since I got in touch with him, we decided it was a good idea to do a podcast.
Yeah.
And the reason why I found him interesting to do the podcast with, besides him being an interesting guy, is he's worked with some of the biggest names in the business.
I have, man.
Including Weezy, Currency, Wiz Khalifa. Who else? I know it's not easy for you to name drop.
It's
on
hard.
yourself,
It's hard to
but
recall, man. It's hard to recall. You know, I've recorded
Mack Maine.
I recorded with Mack. Made beats. Been on the same song with Mack. Well, it's been some years, and the song is unreleased. But I actually had a chance to produce a track, and I wrote a hook with Nas. You know, it's unreleased, so nobody knows it.
That's crazy.
So shout out to my boy Gabe for putting that together.
Did you record with him in the same room?
Nah. This was, emailing stuff out.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And they hit me up in the middle of the night 2 weeks after I sent them the stuff. Told me, take that off the shelf. Don't let nobody have that. So that's one of my biggest, most favorite accomplishments. I only heard the song once. Nas, he keeps it all tucked in.
So you don't even have it?
Oh no, he don't the labels don't even have his
That's
music.
crazy.
Nas keep his music on lock and key. But after I get Jay-Z, my bucket list gonna be halfway full.
Yeah.
But yeah, who else? Wiz. I worked with Styley. I produced a record that had Action Bronson on it with Currency.
I love Action.
Yeah.
Stalley's. I haven't heard Stalley in a while, but I used to listen to him.
Yeah, Stalley based in Atlanta. Now he doing his thing still. He just dropped something. My man Tree G from out of Cabrini Green, Chicago. GLC from Chicago.
Yep.
I don't know if y'all remember Mad Lion. I did a record with Mad Lion before, bro. I don't know. I work with some cats, man.
But you're a very musical guy. I mean, of course.
I am.
Do you play an instrument?
I'm currently playing guitar. I taught myself guitar. I've been playing since September. I'm actually recording, singing, playing the whole nine right now, acoustic guitar. But I grew up playing freehand keys, and but I threw it all out the window once I realized sequences were a thing, and drum machines and keyboards, and I didn't have to play music straight through. I regret letting the piano go because now I'm all the way into it now. But yeah, I fool around with some instruments, man.
I feel like in a way, New Orleans is like a microcosm of the U.S. and that both of them, their number one export is music.
Who?
New Orleans and the U.S.
Well, to bring it even more home, American music all came from New Orleans.
Yeah, the American music.
American music came from New Orleans. Anybody out there want to debate me, get that hundo. He gonna set up the boxing ring.
And anybody who thinks that pasta is overwhelming.
Yep. We're gonna deal with you too.
He wants to fight them too.
Yeah, but American music is essentially New Orleans music and black music. We built the new world. We shaped the new world. We fed the new world. We entertained the new world. So whether we're talking, jazz came from here. There's so many genres were birthed out of jazz. Your rhythm and blues and your gospels and your rock and rolls. You could credit that to Dave Bartholomew and Fats Dominoes and people like that. Your Jelly Roll Martins, your Buddy Boldens. For jazz, funk.
You're shooting way over our head right now.
Well, look these names up. These are
some of them I know. But
these are the
all.
pioneers. This is the first. This stuff was all come from right off the Mississippi River, the German coast, and all this stuff come off of all of these plantations in Congo Square, where we would gather down here. Things were a lot more lenient during the time of slavery and the antebellum period and colonialism and stuff. So we had a lot of freedom down here. We were able to express ourselves in ways most people couldn't under slavery or whatnot. And from that came what we all now to be known as American music, man.
One of the things I really like about your music that caught my ear was that you can tell that your music is influenced by New Orleans. You have a lot of that type of sound in it. You have the instruments. You have the instrumentals.
Correct.
Even in your like hard rap songs, not even just the Phipstrumentals, but Phips tapes.
It's a timing thing that we have. Much like most people have accents. We have an accent.
Neither of us have an accent.
Nah, not at all. You guys sound like, Siri. But this Boston
Siri
accent,
don't understand me.
Yeah, you don't understand me neither.
Okay.
I hate that, bro.
We're in the South.
Yeah, she don't understand me either.
I call her worse than that.
Yeah, y'all, but they got, y'all sound like what we call the Yats down here. And it's
That don't sound good.
We say Yat because Yat is like where Yat. You know what I'm saying? There's people that talk like that. And there's a lot of people in like Chalmette, a lot of white people in Metairie, just down the river and surrounding areas. They all sound like they're from the Northeast. It's very similar.
Really?
Yes, indeed. If I bring you like into Paris and Saint Bernard, you'll swear you're talking to somebody from Jersey sometimes. The accents are very similar. Very similar. Now, I've had New Yorkers and stuff, they agreed that when they came down here and they heard it, they was like, why does it sound like I'm in Jersey right now? You know what I'm saying?
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's super interesting because they got that oi sound on everything.
And these are real country ass people?
Not super country. This is like, one city removed from New Orleans.
Okay.
But they're very southern, if you will.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And, we talk like we talk with, like, I guess it's mostly because of the Haitian influence and Africans down here. But they got this we call it a Yat. It's like, where Yat? Come here, darling. They talk like that. You got your po' boy.
Yeah, that sounds more Jersey, New York than us.
Jersey, New York than y'all, but it depends on where you're at too. You know what I'm saying? Because it get a little tricky once you get up into like Acadiana country and where the Cajuns are from. Because Cajun is way different from Creole.
Yeah.
So that's like Nova Scotians and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It get deep and it get real.
It's like French Canadian mixed with Indians, right?
Sorta. Not so much as the
Native
Indian
Americans.
Part. Not so much as the Native American. That influence was more crazy down here with the Creole stuff. They were just like, French Canadian, Nova Scotian type hillbillies, if you will. And that's just how they shit. Because they didn't really blend like we blended down here. It was a little segregated, if you will.
I'm not sure of this, but the Haitian influence down here, is that more of like back in the day Haitians? Not like a within the last 20, 30 years. This is more like 100 years ago.
Post-Haitian Revolution.
Yeah.
Post-Haitian Revolutions, a bulk of the island came here. They doubled the black population in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And the traditions, a lot of them.
And that's what Creole is based in?
Well, Creole is an intersection between West African and roughly Haitian, Native American, French, and Spanish. It's a cross-section between those four. And, you can't leave none of them out. And that's what the Creole culture is. That's why the people who are from that look the way they look. That's why the food tastes the way it tastes.
And a lot of the dishes, if you look back at what they grow in Africa, it's the same dish, but it's like a different starch to make this dish, or a different green to make this dish.
Right. So to expound on that, and if anybody's down here, make sure you check out Whitney Plantation up the river on the German coast.
Yeah, tell me about that. I heard you had quite an experience over there.
I did. My whole life I never really been to a plantation. I always just resisted them, if you will. B. Mike, Brandon Odoms, y'all look him up. He's a world-renowned artist from down here. He put together these tours every now and then. He'll bring a group of creatives and influencers from New Orleans to go up there to visit with Dr. Sek, who's the on-site historian for that. He's a Senegalese doctor in history. And he gives you, the tale of it. It really gives you a peek into how much we shaped the culture here, even from a survival standpoint. Because when a lot of your European settlers came down and they came with slaves, they did not know what to grow down here because the land was so moist and soft. And it was the Africans who figured out that we're going to grow rice. And I believe like grits, because grits come from Africa as well.
Yeah, it's the same as fufu. It's like their
essentially
version
the same thing.
Yeah,
it's essentially the same thing. And it was those Africans who figured out what could grow down here so people could survive. Because those European settlers, they were falling off through disease and famine and stuff like that because this wasn't regular solid land, so you couldn't grow the traditional crops down here and stuff. So the base to everything down here. Like there's a plantation called Laurel, I think it's Laurel, which is right next to Whitney, and it's a Creole plantation, they call it. And the
Where's
slaves
Whitney Plantation?
in Edgard, Louisiana.
How far is that from here?
30, 40 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not far at all. There's a plantation where majority of it was built with no nails. They wedged
Clay?
No, it was made with wood.
Okay.
But they wedged the wood. The architecture is all wedged wood. Like
Wow.
the architectural design of it, they used no nails to put this in this.
And a lot of those structures are still
They're
standing.
still there. They're still there. Yeah, like when you look at, and there's no discredit to anyone because everybody has contributed to this world in their own way. But when it comes to shaping the Western world, man, I don't think it's spoken about enough how much the settlers, what everybody referred to as slaves, but, we weren't slaves when they picked us up. Some of we were doctors, we were, medicine men, we were architects, mathematicians, the whole nine. So our intelligence, we wasn't without intelligence. When we came here, we did phenomenal things with what was given to us, and it literally, nobody would have survived down here if it was not for those slaves.
AKG and I have read this book, and just the topic in general about the Great Migration. I didn't grow up in the South, so I didn't learn the same history that you guys learned in school, and you learned from ancestors and whatnot.
Right.
But just learning about why people moved where they did and how certain groups of people ended up where they did is fascinating.
It is.
Did any of your family at any point, migrate north? Do you have like a big group of Neros
Mahalia
or
did.
Jacksons?
The Jackson,
Yeah.
Mahalia did. So Mahalia left here.
Chicago, right?
To Chicago. So she had some aunts that were living up there. Her grandmother, because her mother died when she was about 11. Her grandmother was just, a house worker. She worked for like white families off of St. Charles and stuff. Mahalia would actually go work with her and help these families prepare their family for their work day and their school day before she even went to school.
Some people just know Mahalia because Pusha T said her name in a song and because there's a theater named after her.
Correct.
But give us like a brief synopsis of why Mahalia
She is the world's greatest gospel singer to ever live. She didn't have more than a 6th grade education. She didn't know how to read music. She preferred to just rock with her Mildred, her piano player, and stomp on the ground and slap her leg more than performing with orchestras like CBS when she sang with all them. They tried to do. She was a very down home, back of town New Orleans type woman. What New Orleans made her to be is what made her shine on the world. And she migrated up north when she was 16 because Aunt Duke was her grandmother. She couldn't provide for her any further as far as advancing herself because she was just a house worker. And so she had some aunts that lived in Chicago. She caught a train up there, and she kind of got with the times. There was a big upper class of black people pre-Depression.
I was just reading about those trains, and the ones to Chicago left out of Mississippi.
Correct.
So she probably had to go over there.
Correct.
And then once they hit Cairo, Illinois, which is southern Illinois,
Okay.
that's when it changed from the north to the south.
All right.
And there was no more Jim Crow laws.
Uh-huh.
Well, she was probably up there before the Jim Crow stuff.
I think she
anyway.
was, yeah. She got up there in 1925.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these people, like, once you hit there, then it's like, okay, we can sit anywhere we want in the train.
Yeah.
But then once you go back down south,
Yeah,
you have to go back to the black section.
There was a lot more liberties up there, but...
They called it the chicken bone train.
Wow, I never
Because
knew
they
that.
found, like, spare chicken bones around the train.
That's funny.
Because the black folks would have to wait so long in line to eat because there was only like one table for black people, and it was like 20 or 30.
What book was this?
It's a great book. It's called The Warmth of Other Suns. It's by Isabel Wilkerson.
All right.
Yeah. There were all these white people, and they got seated, and then the black people would all wait for one table.
Wow.
So they decided, you know what, we're never going to eat on this long ass train from Mississippi to Chicago, so we have to pack our own food.
Yes.
And they would pack fried chicken, most people.
There was this big track from Slidell to Watts, LA.
Yeah. The Louisiana and Texas people the train went to.
So a lot of my family did that in the 50s. My grandfather did it.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This everything in the book tells you, like, this is like what happened. This is like a blueprint.
I might have to check that out there. That's the type of stuff I like to know.
It's great.
So
the book's long too, so it's like I've been reading it for a while.
That's crazy. About like 500 pages.
Yeah.
Well, when she went up there, she got her hustle on, and she became a cosmetologist and stuff. But the Great Depression hit, and a lot of that money and everything people had started to go out the window. Soup kitchen lines became long. She started just getting work as being like a maid in hotels and other people's houses and stuff. But the Depression gave the rise to her fame, because the word got out. She was all the way in the church, all the way super duper in the church, especially after her grandfather came up to visit her. She asked him to go get an ice cream from the store. It was hot as hell. He went out, came back, had a heat stroke. He was about to die. She made a promise to God that if my grandfather survived this, she said, everything I would do would be to glorify your name. And she didn't live a very secular life at all, because Aunt Duke really kept her in the church. The most she would ever do is go to picture shows and stuff like that. And back then, black Christians were very conservative, and everything had to be about the Lord. And even something like going to the movies was outside of the Lord's will, if you will. So she gave up all of those things because her grandfather survived. But Great Depression came, and the word got around that when Mahalia sang at your church, the offerings went up, because she had
I'm sure they did.
Her voice and her performance always stirred up the spirits, which ironically became her position in the civil rights movement. They would use her the same way to get people, powered up to go out and face, the marches and stuff like that during the civil rights movement. That's why Martin would always call on her, like, we gonna need you to kind of lead the cavalry, get everybody. Basically, she was the drummer boy in the wall.
If you've seen Selma, there's Mahalia Jackson's in Selma.
Yeah, so, and that was her. I mean, between that and just for her cooking for people on the road and stuff, she was big on cooking, because, soup kitchen lines, the line would be so long, she'd just take the people closer to her in the back of the line, and she'd take whatever little money she made, from her job that day, and she'd make big family meals in the house, and just always feed people. She was always about feeding people. And then when success came her way, she got into business, and she owned flower shops and beauty shops, and she owned apartment buildings. She owned apartment buildings here. I remember she gave, I think her will was in the Jet magazine. She gave, like, my Uncle Johnny some apartment buildings out in Oakland, because my family went out to Oakland. Some went to L.A. The whole nine. So she really left her imprint on the world, man.
I know. I read Harry Belafonte said she was the most powerful black woman in the U.S.
I see. I'm trying to interview him, bro, because I'm trying to, because mortality is real. There's very few people alive that share time with her.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to track him down, bro. I'm trying to track Harry Belafonte down.
If I wouldn't know how to find him, but do you know where he lives? I
believe in Atlanta.
Okay.
I believe in Atlanta right now. So I'm close to finding him, but I'm trying to, anybody who shared time with John Lewis, I need to sit down with him.
Yep.
I just missed Della Reese. Della Reese was like her young, and she was the mentor of Della Reese. She just passed away. So
yeah, John Lewis is still in Atlanta, I think, right?
He's still out.
Andrew Young.
Andrew Young. I got to hook up with him too. But yeah, she's phenomenal though, man. She's a phenomenal woman. And even though she was all about the Lord and in the church, she still was a black woman from uptown. So you couldn't fuck with her either. Their promoters used to try to jug her, and she would stand them down in the face, and get her money from them. You know what I'm saying? She was very savvy. She would ride. She had a Cadillac, and she didn't fly nowhere. I don't think planes was even that prominent then. So she would drive to all her tours and across the country. And she's riding through the Jim Crow South, if you will.
Yeah, gotta follow that green book.
She get pulled over in the middle of the night. It's just her and Mildred, her piano player, and she got to pretend that this Cadillac belongs to her mammy. And she got to play that dumb role, and they would go through her purse and take it. Like, there was a specific story she told. They took $500 that she had in her purse. Of course, it's a lot of money then, but they didn't know about the $10,000 she had in her bra and in her bustier and all that. So she was very savvy, and she knew her way around the world.
My grandfather always said, "Separate your money."
Separate your money is the real shit.
Don't put it all in one place.
In the cash world, for sure.
Yep. She had an album called Therapy.
Yeah, that was my last album. The last thing I put out was Therapy, all live album.
Now, I read some stuff, and it was saying how, like, you really didn't intend for it to be therapeutic in any way. It was more just, like, not mentally therapeutic. Mm-hmm. And then was it when you were making it or right after you made it, your best friend got shot? Or
Nah, so the album's pretty old. The album, I actually made that album before I made Black Man for Sale.
Okay.
And the reason why I called that album Therapy was because it was like a musical cleanse, because at the time, my producer, Prospect, that's who produced the whole album, it's a live album, he and I were having undesirable musical experiences with working with other artists. So we went in the studio and we didn't touch drum machines or none of that. We just did, everything was live instrumentation, and we just made it from start to finish. We just made all raw, original, live songs. And that was therapeutic for us, which is why we called it Therapy. But fast forward to 4 years after that, and I actually started going to therapy. a lot of people familiar with Amanda Seales. At the time, she was Amanda Diva when her and I met in New York. She's the one that always recommended that I go to therapy because the trauma that I dealt with in my life, I never looked at my life that I ever dealt with trauma. But she was like, just dealing with Hurricane Katrina alone was a traumatic enough experience for you to go sit down and talk to somebody. And that stayed with me for years, and I eventually started going to therapy. And ironically, my best friend was murdered around like a month into me going to therapy. I was on my like third or fourth therapy session, and I don't know how I would have fared out through that process if I wasn't in therapy already. You know,
I wish I was. I had started that process when I went through a similar experience with my friend, and it took me much longer than it could have if I had the right people to talk to.
Correct.
Or to deal with.
Correct.
Process it.
Yeah. It's important. Like we will get everything checked. You'll get your oil checked and changed. You know, if you're feeling a pain in your chest, you'll go to the cardiologist. You know, pain in your stomach or even your nuts, you'll go to the urologist. Head, you'll go to the neurologist. But mentally, that's such a big stigma on that. And, you know, you being crazy and all that. And it's literally no different from going to the dentist.
A wise man once said, it's like bringing your brain to Jiffy Lube.
It's exactly what it is.
You know who that man was?
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Well, I said that.
I don't know. I read it somewhere.
Yeah, but now that's what it's just that simple.
Yeah.
It's that plain. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no stigma involved. It's like the most ignorant shit that you could ever assume to think that this is like, and I got partners, you know, who may very well be my pallbearers who didn't understand why would you need it? You know, you seem like you whoop the whoop. I was like, man, I needed that more than I needed to go see my general practitioner.
Same here.
Like it's our mind. They got some days we don't use all our.
I don't need a physical. I need a mental.
You feel me? What I'm saying? Like, and then it wasn't until recently that I understood how real mental fatigue was. You know what I'm saying? Like you could literally not exert too much energy physically, but whatever was going on inside your head that day could literally drain you.
It
you know?
Physically starts manifesting.
Exactly. Because I mean, your mind is physical too, right? So you know, so anybody that is listening, fuck what you heard about therapy. You know, go get your head checked, and it doesn't mean nothing's wrong with you. And if something is wrong with you, that's totally normal too, because nobody in this world I don't believe is unscathed. Like we all then came in contact with something that we simply just don't understand. It don't mean that you're schizophrenic. It don't mean that you're manic depressive. It just may be something that you don't understand. And here's what to expect when you go. The therapist isn't there to solve your problems. It's almost as if you have a third party there while you're having a conversation with yourself, and they ask the key questions that you should ask yourself to discover what's actually going on up in there, because they don't know you, but they are more like air traffic controllers to you exploring your mind and showing you, look this way, you may see something over here, right? So what do you see when you go there? They'll ask you more questions than tell you anything. It's like, you know, well, how did that make you feel?
And they can calm down the negativity too.
Because it's critical. It's
quiet the negativity.
Exactly. It's critical. It's like concrete things that they want to explain to you and get the emotion, the negative connotation, anything condescending or anything that's just like all the fluff. You know, it's getting down to the raw meat and potatoes of what's going on inside your head. So really when you go to therapy, it's you doing the work, and it's having an unbiased conversation with yourself. It's just that you got like a lifeguard there to make sure you don't drown in the room.
I was reading on the plane on the way here, and it was about verbal negativity and like actually verbalizing or articulating things in a negative way. Kind of, you know, you speak it into existence type
Correct.
thing. There were two big examples of when this happened. Pete Maravich, Pistol Pete, said midway through his career, you know, I don't want to just play 10 years and then die of a heart attack. Mm-hmm. He died at age 40 playing pickup ball of a heart attack after he played 10 years of basketball in the NBA. And that really happened because he spoke it into existence. Bill Buckner said during his playing career, he said, you know, nobody wants to be the guy who lets a ground ball go through his legs to lose the World Series. That's crazy. They said those things. It was on record. They have like proof of that.
And that's why I got a partner. He's so I call him the bottom liner and Lil Roadblock, because he's like my devil's advocate, you know. And he says that I speak so wild with things that I say. Like, I got it on my chalkboard, you know, I'm due for at least 8 figures net profits in the next 5 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they say shoot for the moon. If you don't make it, at least you be amongst the stars, right? You know, so if you need $100, ask for $200. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like go past the marker on everything. Like, and the power of the tongue is real. So, with that being said, because most people hear that freeze up, I was like, really? Like, it's that easy? It's that simple? I could build my world. I could abracadabra my shit. I could create as I speak. Bet. That's the easiest thing ever there. Well, fuck it then. 90-room mansion. Boom, put me down. I need tigers in the backyard. Peacocks walking around. You understand what I'm saying? Like, let's talk big shit then. If it's that much in my hands, let's go there. You know, and just stay away from that negative shit, because you're bringing in your life if you ain't on point. So I love that you brought that up.
You mentioned at lunch today, speaking of therapy, and it must have been therapeutic. And you even mentioned how it was I don't even know if did you actually go to the funeral of your friend?
I did.
Okay, because you said you didn't even need to. I didn't know if
I was a pallbearer for sure. Yeah, I was a pallbearer.
But the experience you had leading up to that.
Yeah. When
Talk
he
about
passed,
that a little bit.
you know, he was my first client when I started cutting hair when I was 13, and now we were 37. You know, just about to make 38, and I had to cut his hair for his service. Definitely was not reluctant. Even when the family asked, and they were reluctant to ask, they thought it might be too much for me. I was like, I'd be honored, because I was his barber majority of his life, and I definitely want to be the one to give him his last haircut.
Yeah, it's an honor.
Oh man, and I went to the mortuary, and they had him in like the chapel, and it was just me and him, and I sat there, and we have this routine because you know, he like his hair cut a certain way. He was always ticklish around his nose when I would line his mustache up. That would take forever. Like the clippers would get past his nose, and he'd be like, hold on, give me a second, hold on. And it'd take like fucking 5 minutes just to line his mustache up. And, you know, and I'm having conversation with him like, yeah, I bet you ain't ticklish nothing, you know what I'm saying, while I'm lining his mustache up and shit. And then after the cut, he would douse himself in alcohol. After I would spray him down, he would take the bottle and just like damn near take a bath in the shit. You know, I was like, I guess you ain't gonna need this alcohol now.
I'm sure you laughed and you cried while you were doing it.
That picture, there was no
thinking
tears.
About all that.
Picture, there was no tears, dog. I don't know. I can't explain to you the space that I was in.
It was comfort.
Yeah, it was just like I had my dog one last time. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't see him at the hospital when he got shot. He got shot outside his home going to warming his car for work. And somebody, he went to go bring his wife's keys back into the kitchen to hang up on the hook. When he came back out, it's said that somebody was in his car, and he always had his heat on him, so he let off shots. Unfortunately, he lost the gun battle.
Just a random.
It was random, man. Like,
robbery or whatever.
Well, attempt, I guess, you know, because well, I can't really speak on, you know, the case or whatever, but you know, there was somebody out there just early morning, like what you call that, twilight, right before the sun come up, you know, going checking cars, you know, whatever, and his car was open because he was warming it up, and his wife was in the kitchen because they had a newborn, Jordan, and she was warming up his bottle. So he had hung the keys up, kissed her goodbye, went back outside. Next thing you know, you heard the gunfire. And but I didn't make it to the hospital. I didn't want to see him like that in the moment of. I'm glad I saw him at the mortuary, because I wouldn't have seen him until the actual funeral, and then I'd have had to process all that there in a room full of all those people. You know, and then we were really each other. I was his best man, he was my best man, the whole nine. So I made my peace with the whole situation. So I'm actually good on it. I'm good talking about it, the whole nine. But that was, you know, good guy, family man.
It's fairly recent, so I'm sure it's still kind of fresh.
It's somewhat. It hit me every now and then when it does, but it's just usually like I miss my dog.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I talk about him all the time. Like Mardi Gras, we always link up under the bridge on Mardi Gras. You know, my daughter's his godchild, and I got like 3-4 pictures of the last 3-4 years of him being alive. All three of us under the bridge. Next year, all three of us under the bridge and shit. So
that's good
yeah,
stuff.
it was a beautiful friendship, beautiful dude, man. Me and that dude got cool over a hot sausage sandwich, man. It was we met in junior high. He was wandering around the cafeteria. He ain't know where to sit or nothing. He wasn't fresh the first few days of school, and usually you'd be fresh for the first day. But his mom was like in between checks or something, and so he ain't really had lunch and shit and the whole nine. And I ain't really peep all this. I was just like, man, this dude in my class.
So at least tighten his fade up a little bit.
Well, I ain't start cutting hair until like a year later. But I seen him, and he said that. I was like, man, you come sit by me, dog. I was like, you ain't eat nothing? He was like, nah, dog, for whatever reason. I was like, my mom made me a hot sausage sandwich on wheat bread. I gave him half my sandwich. And he would tell you up until his death that's why I'm his best friend. Because he was like, dog, I ain't had no lunch that day. That man gave me half his sandwich. And I had his loyalty ever since then. But when the next week when his mom got paid, freshest motherfucker in school, boy. That boy came through the shine. He was dressing fresher than me, man. That's my dog, Jacques-Philippe Marchand, man. That's my dude.
That's a Creole.
It's like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yo.
So this is when you're in school with like Lil Wayne and.
Nah, I was in junior high then. I was at Lusher. I ain't started going to school in Wayne until I got to Mack Maine in high school, 9th grade. But we was in the same neighborhood. I would always see Wayne at the park at Harrell Park.
Wayne was your class or
2 years behind me.
Okay.
Yeah, we ain't far. He was 2 years behind me. So when I was in 9th grade, he was in 7th grade, and so I went to school with him for 2 years.
So did everybody know that Baby was like a millionaire already? Like
nobody. We ain't had a concept of money like that. Because back in the day, you was shining if you drove like a Pontiac Grand Am.
Because I heard something like
20s.
Wayne was saying how like his mom knew Baby, and like they were like, oh yeah, he was a millionaire when he was 14.
Yeah. He come. His dad was a hustler. Baby daddy was a hustler. He was a businessman. Just kept the ball and all other type of businesses and hustles. And and Baby and Slim just came up in the crack era. So there was that around.
Everyone knew they were making money.
Yeah, they was always known for having money. They had the best bikes on the block as kids, the whole nine.
Yeah.
My nephew's dad grew up with him. Chill Will, rest in peace. He just passed away last Thanksgiving for cancer. And they was all known for having money, but we didn't have a concept of dollar amounts back then.
Yeah.
Like this was the 90s.
100 sound like a lot. 1,000 sound like a lot.
You know what I'm
you
saying?
know.
Like we weren't looking at people in terms of their net worth.
Right.
It was like, your car fresh, you stay fresh, you got a pocket full of money, you paid.
Right.
We didn't have a concept of money like that.
Yeah.
So anybody that knew he had $1 million, I didn't know. I was a child.
Right.
Baby
right,
way older than me. But he was always, him and Slim always had money. You know what I'm saying? They come from around money. Their daddy was a hustler, so it was just a family with bread. You know what I'm saying?
I just thought that sounded crazy the way he phrased it. It's just like, yeah, my mom told me be careful around that guy. He's a millionaire and he's 13 or 14. Like you can't trust him. Be careful.
Yeah. Yeah, they always had money, man. They always had money. That whole neighborhood is different now where he from.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gentrified like a motherfucker.
I do like I saw a piece of your artwork.
Okay.
And it was the one with the elephant,
yeah,
with
the elephant,
chair.
The chain to the chair.
Yeah, and it said no one chair should have all that power.
Correct.
That's some real creative shit. I liked it.
Yeah, that's a series I'm working on about the human condition.
Okay.
And just to show us analogies of positions we put ourselves in or that we exist in. And that was just showing how we give up our power to things that are lesser than us. We allow ourselves to be chained down by things we can control.
You do a little traveling, especially in the music business and whatnot. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite food cities? 3 favorite food cities besides New Orleans.
There is nothing besides New Orleans. But since I'm gonna be polite and answer. You gotta say New York because it's culturally diverse.
You can get anything there.
Yeah, you get anything there. I'm gonna say New York. I eat a lot of foods that I never got a chance to eat down here, be it Dominican, Indian, you name it. Like I eat all type of foods out in New York, and you could get them like at the drop of a hat. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you had to travel to a special place to get it. You know what I mean? I actually been to the Italian feast in
the North End in Boston.
No, in New York.
Oh, in Little Italy in New York.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know Little Italy was like basically in Chinatown.
Yeah, they border each other.
Yeah. So I might have to say New York and LA.
New York and LA.
Yeah, New York and LA. Pretty diverse towns.
All right. Now I want you to tell the Boston story.
The Boston story?
The one you just told.
Anytime somebody says something about Boston, Boston was the first place I ever rode a horse. Shout out to Eliza Giaconda. Some years before I toured out there, I did this song called Top of the Money I produced for Currency. And somebody sent me a fan video of this horse named Shiloh just doing these equestrian tricks and stuff. And fast forward to me being on tour, we in Boston, and it's like me, Currency, Trademark, Young Roddy, Smoke Dizzle, all the Monster Beats, all the Corner Boy P. And after the show, we out there doing the autograph thing, and there's this white chick. She just kind of off in the back, just kind of waiting for everybody to do the, me signing the autographs. And then she walked up. She ain't asked for autographs.
It's at the Middle East in Cambridge, right?
At the Middle East in Cambridge.
Yeah.
And she said, she's like, I know you probably don't remember me, but I sent you this video with my horse. And as soon as she said that, I was like, Shiloh, because that was the horse's name. And she laughed like, yeah, that's my horse. I was like, man, that was crazy when you sent that to me. And it's like, 2 in the morning after the show. And I'm like, yo, where is he? She's like, he's like 30, 40 minutes from over here. I was like, can we see him? She was like, yeah, like, cause we in town for the night.
Hold up, it's like 1 in the morning, and you're
like
asking to see her.
Yeah,
horse named Shiloh.
I'm random like that, you dig? So we wound up smoking one, and then we rode out to the stable, and she showed it to me. Just so happened, Shiloh was up, and she was like, "You want to ride him?" I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah." So now it's but at this time now it's like 4-something in the morning, and I'm riding a horse named Shiloh, outside of Boston. I don't know what township we were in or whatever.
We don't have townships.
Or whatever you want to call
County,
it.
maybe.
County? Yeah, we got parishes down here, so I don't know nothing about none of that shit. But yeah, I was riding a horse. That's the first time I rode a horse, man. It was chill too. I like ride. I done rode it a few times since then. I wouldn't mind, if not owning a horse, having access to a horse.
Yeah.
I brought my daughter recently.
I guess that's it.
From like her birthday or whatever. We were riding horses down here. She liked it. I could see why people are into it. I can see why they didn't want us to ride it like on Django and that boy. Who that nigga on that name? I ain't never seen no nigga. I see why they didn't want us up on them horses. I felt powerful up there, man. I could see how you could run it. Like, what it'd be like to be a cowboy or just some sort of conqueror, just riding down on a group of people. You sitting over them with this big old beast up under you, and you got full control over them.
And you're higher than you think you're gonna be, right?
Oh man, that riding horses is a powerful thing, man.
Yeah.
I like it. I enjoy it a great deal.
All right, let's keep it a hundo. I got a few quick questions for you, then we'll get the fuck out of here.
All right.
Any country you could go to in the world, where would you go? That you never been?
Any country?
Yeah.
Somewhere in Africa. I don't know where. I mean, Morocco comes to mind. I'm infatuated with Morocco because of my favorite book, The Alchemist. But virtually anywhere in Africa.
Okay.
I have an undying desire to go back to my homeland.
I have the same desire.
You never been?
To go back there. I've been a lot of places. I've never been anywhere in Africa.
All right.
And I planned a trip actually and had to cancel it. Like I had.
But you're Italian, right?
Yeah.
You been to Italy?
Oh yeah, a lot.
That's dope. My mama love Italy.
Yeah, I love it.
I never been. I only been to England.
Love it. Any city in the U.S. that you've never been to that you want to go to?
Oakland. I never been to Oakland.
Okay, yeah.
I fuck with people from Oakland. Everybody I met, they cool, super chill. Shout out to Mary D. Me and her just linked down here. And everybody I went to college with from Oakland was cool as shit. Everybody I met.
Where'd you go to college? I thought you said you didn't go to college.
I went for 2 years. My daughter and I going. I went for 2 years, but all I did was cut hair and make beats, so I quit.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Down the street.
Yeah.
How far is that from here?
About an hour. It's in the back of Baton Rouge in Scotlandville.
Oh, that's right. It's in Baton Rouge.
Yeah. Oakland is the first thing that comes to mind. I've been to majority major cities in America.
Oakland's the reason we're here right now.
Yeah.
Our boy's getting married out here. He's from Oakland.
Oh, for real?
Like all these people, like there's like 100 people from Oakland here
That's
right
crazy.
now.
I fuck with the big man.
Dusty Baker out here.
Yeah.
You know Dusty Baker?
Who is that?
He was the manager for the Giants.
Oh.
San Francisco Giants.
All right. I don't know that. That's a gangster name, though.
It is. Top 5 rappers.
Ooh, nobody's ever asked me this, and I always practice this.
It's a two-pronged question.
Yeah.
This is your first question.
All right,
top
so
5 rappers.
Top 5. Nasir Jones.
Makes everyone's top 5.
Yep. Outkast, and I don't separate the two.
That's a tough one, but yeah.
They're the greatest thing to happen to music of any genre.
Oh, I love
Outkast is be out of this world. So Nas, Outkast, that is, I don't separate the two. So,
I'm okay with that.
So that's a 1. Jay-Z for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Scarface.
These have all made the list.
Ghostface Killer, honorable mention Juvenile.
Okay, you had to throw a little NOLA flavor in there.
Yeah, because I practice this, so I would always either swap Juvie for Ghostface in and out. But if I could squeeze in the extra one like you do in the clip, throw Juvie in there too. You know?
Biggest rapper in the game didn't make the cut.
I know,
Well, that's a different thing. You saying top 5?
Nah, he.
That's top 5. That's my personal preference.
Yeah.
This is Black Thought. We was talking about this over lunch. Black Thought is the most in shape rapper. He's the strongest, the toughest, and I'll put Black Thought against my entire top 5. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like he is. I don't know who the X-Men and all that, but whoever's the strongest and everything, whoever running that show, that's who Black Thought is. He's the supreme. He's the God MC. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so he's just a god of his own right. But that's my top 5.
So, which brings us to top 5 in New Orleans.
Juvenile, Mack, who's in jail right now.
Mack is?
Yeah.
Not Mack Maine.
Not Mack
Oh.
Mack from No Limit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So Juvenile, Mack, The Dawn, Currency, Wayne, Mia X.
Okay.
Yeah. Straight up.
Good.
Yeah.
Man, really progressive list right there.
Oh,
with
man,
female in there and everything.
Oh man, her gender has nothing to do with her lyrical ability. She was smashing motherfucker on the mic, and she did when she came out. She was cold, boy. She's one of the toughest on the tank.
Yeah.
And when the tank hit, it was Mystical, Mia, and then whoever else, like Fiend, But like Mystical and Mia, they were the most lyrical on the tank. You crazy?
Death Row meal.
Who?
Death Row meal.
Death Row?
What are you eating? You're on death row. What's your last meal?
I was just talking to this the other day. Like, I don't know what my favorite food no more is. It's either tacos, authentic tacos, or shrimp platter. I mean, a seafood platter.
Mm-hmm.
Shrimp, oysters. Throwing some stuffed shrimp. You know what I'm saying?
What are you drinking with it?
French 75 with Grand Marnier. Yeah,
Okay.
So champagne Grand Marnier with a little bit of something extra in it.
Okay.
And it got to be prepared by my mixologist, Michael Boyd.
Where's he at?
He's at the Doré Metropolitan on Wilkerson and Charters in the French Quarter, a block off of the cathedral.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're in town and you want a good drink, go see Michael Boyd. That's my mixologist.
You have a dessert?
Cheesecake, strawberry, fresh strawberry.
Yeah.
Don't come with that
Not the
syrupy
syrupy
ass shit.
nah.
I need fresh puree. I know how to make it, so I know if you're coming halfway. And I don't want no baked cheesecake. Do not play with me at all. I'm fucking serious.
Oh man, a lot of threats, threatening people.
Man,
who
with food,
overwhelm them with
I was
pasta.
told the basic 3 things in life you need is food, clothing, and shelter. One out of those 3 you absolutely cannot go without.
Yeah.
And that's food.
That's true.
Yeah, I could be naked and I could live outside, but we all gotta eat.
I've seen that before. I've seen people live like that.
You know what I mean? So don't play with me behind my food. I'll fight you.
That's it. That's it for Nesby Phips.
This was fun.
We're out. We gotta go hit the streets.
Yeah. Well, keep it a hundo, man. Shout out to my guy.
I really had a great time in New Orleans. It was a pleasure meeting Nesby Phips, and what a great wedding. I'm still recovering this week though. You know how I can get down there with the food and the alcohol. I think I found some new listeners at the wedding too. Made some good friends, made some new friends, got to know some old friends better. But those of you who are listening for the first time, please rate and review my podcast on Apple Music. I greatly appreciate it. And those of you who have been listening and haven't rated or reviewed it yet, please do that. Keepin It A Hundo is now available on iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube. So there's no excuses as to why you can't listen. It's only because you don't want to listen. And I'm cool with that too. And everybody, please do your part in ending coronavirus. Till next time, this is Matty Hundo for Keepin It A Hundo.